Title: Why Some Brains Can't Handle Compliments. You look really nice today, and suddenly your entire nervous system is having a full-scale emergency. Your face gets hot, your brain scrambles for ways to deflect, and you end up saying something like, "This old thing? I found it in a dumpster," about a shirt you actually spent an hour choosing. While everyone else seems to absorb praise like sunshine, you experience compliments like psychological warfare. You're not fishing for more compliments. You're not being modest. Your brain genuinely processes positive feedback as a threat. And there are fascinating psychological reasons why some people's minds treat kindness like incoming artillery. Let's start with what's actually happening when someone compliments you. For most people, praise activates reward circuits in the brain. They get a nice dopamine hit and feel good about themselves. But for others, compliments trigger what psychologists call cognitive dissonance, the uncomfortable feeling when new information conflicts with existing beliefs. If you have low self-esteem or negative self-beliefs, compliments don't feel good, they feel wrong. Your brain has spent years building a detailed file of evidence about your inadequacies. When someone says something positive, it contradicts your entire internal database, creating mental stress rather than mental reward. Psychology identifies this as part of self-verification theory. Some people are motivated to confirm their existing self-concept, even when it's negative, because consistency feels safer than change. A compliment forces you to either reject the feedback or revise your self-image, and both options feel threatening. And here's something nobody talks about. For people who can't handle compliments, praise often comes with invisible strings attached. Maybe you learned early that compliments preceded expectations, requests, or manipulation. "You're so responsible" meant more chores were coming. "You're so understanding" meant your needs were about to be ignored. Research shows that compliment-averse people often have histories of conditional love or approval. They learned that positive feedback was temporary and based on performance rather than inherent worth. So when someone compliments them now, their brain automatically starts scanning for the hidden agenda or waiting for the other shoe to drop. There's also this thing called impostor syndrome that makes compliments feel like evidence that you've successfully fooled someone. When someone praises your work, instead of feeling proud, you panic that they're about to discover you don't actually know what you're doing. The compliment becomes proof of your deception rather than validation of your competence. Psychology reveals that some people deflect compliments because they have what's called external attribution style. They believe good things happen due to luck, timing, or other people's efforts, rather than their own abilities. So when someone compliments them, they immediately need to redirect credit elsewhere, because taking credit feels dishonest. And let's talk about something that might blow your mind. Many people who struggle with compliments are actually highly empathetic and self-aware. They deflect praise, not because they don't recognize their positive qualities, but because they're acutely aware of their flaws and limitations. Compliments feel incomplete because they don't acknowledge the full picture. Here's where it gets psychologically complex. Some people can't handle compliments because they associate positive attention with vulnerability. Being seen in a positive light means people have expectations of you. It means they might be disappointed if you fail. It's safer to stay invisible or mediocre than to risk not living up to someone's good opinion. Research from the Journal of Social Psychology shows that compliment deflection often correlates with perfectionist tendencies. If you set impossibly high standards for yourself, most praise feels unearned because you know you could have done better. The compliment highlights the gap between what you achieved and what you think you should have achieved. But here's something beautiful about people who struggle with compliments. They often give incredible praise to others because they understand how much positive feedback can mean. They're generous with encouragement and recognition. They just can't apply that same kindness to themselves. There's also a cultural component that gets overlooked. Some backgrounds emphasize humility and warn against pride or getting a big head. In these environments, accepting compliments gracefully was never modeled or encouraged. Deflection becomes a survival skill for maintaining social harmony and avoiding being seen as arrogant. Psychology shows that people who deflect compliments often have sophisticated early warning systems for social dynamics. They're hypersensitive to changes in attention, energy, and group dynamics. A compliment can feel overwhelming because they immediately sense how it might shift their social position or create unwanted focus. And here's what people miss when they insist you should just accept compliments gracefully. Your brain might be protecting you from something real. If you've experienced backlash for accepting praise, or if compliments historically preceded increased pressure or expectations, your deflection isn't dysfunctional, it's adaptive. There's also this neurological component that people don't understand. Research from Dr. Mauricio Delgado at Rutgers shows that compliment-averse people often have heightened activity in their anterior cingulate cortex, the brain region responsible for detecting conflicts and inconsistencies. When someone compliments you, this area literally fires warning signals because the positive input doesn't match your internal self-model. And here's something fascinating about timing. Studies by Dr. Jennifer Aker at Stanford reveal that people who struggle with compliments often have what's called temporal self-discontinuity, difficulty connecting their current self with past achievements or future potential. So when someone praises you for something you did, it feels like they're complimenting a stranger. Psychology also shows that compliment deflection can become what researchers call negative self-reinforcement. Every time you reject praise, you strengthen the neural pathways that associate positive feedback with discomfort. Dr. Kristen Neff's research on self-compassion demonstrates that this creates a feedback loop where accepting kindness becomes increasingly difficult over time. But there's a cost to chronic compliment deflection. When you consistently reject positive feedback, you train other people to stop giving it. You also miss opportunities to update your self-concept with accurate positive information. Your brain gets stuck in old patterns that might no longer serve you. Here's something that might help: the difference between accepting compliments and believing them. You can say thank you without internally agreeing. You can acknowledge that someone sees something positive in you without having to immediately adopt that view as truth. It's like accepting a gift you're not sure you want. You can be gracious without committing to keeping it forever. Research reveals that people who learn to tolerate compliments often experience significant improvements in self-esteem and relationships. Not because the compliments change who they are, but because accepting positive feedback allows them to see themselves through other people's eyes occasionally, instead of only through their own critical lens. And here's something that neuroscience reveals about compliment processing. Dr. Mauricio Delgado's brain imaging studies show that when compliment-averse people finally learn to accept praise, their neural patterns actually shift. The threat detection centers become less active, while reward processing areas begin to engage more readily. Your brain can literally rewire itself to find compliments rewarding rather than threatening. And honestly, there's something powerful about people who've had to work hard to accept kindness. They don't take praise for granted because they know how difficult it can be to believe good things about yourself. When they finally learn to receive compliments, they often become incredibly skilled at giving meaningful, specific praise to others. So the next time someone compliments you and your brain immediately goes into defense mode, remember this: your reaction isn't character flaw. It's psychological protection that once served a purpose. You can acknowledge the kindness without having to perform gratitude. You don't feel or accept praise. That doesn't match your current self-image. Maybe the goal isn't learning to love compliments. Maybe it's learning that other people's positive opinions of you can coexist with your own complicated relationship with yourself. And maybe, eventually, their kindness can help you be a little kinder to yourself too. Are you someone who struggles with compliments, or do you love praise? What do you think makes accepting positive feedback so difficult for some people? Let me know, because I suspect there are more people out there who'd rather hide from kindness than bask in it. To get more psychology content like this in your feed, please subscribe, hit the like button, and share your experiences with us. You'll be supporting our efforts too. Thanks for watching.